Y'all, Wizard101 just dropped a massive shadow spell teaser for the upcoming Darkmoor update, and it is massive compared to the one that we got even 2 weeks ago. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, Wiz is revamping every single shadow spell in the upcoming Darkmoor update. We're talking about every shadow transformation, like Shrike, Nova, all of them, and every shadow enhance spell, every spell that uses some form of shadow pips to cast. Now, the teaser we're going to be talking about today is the upcoming changes to Rusalka. So just like every shadow enhance spell, right? They're basically making it so that there's a new base form of the shadow enhance spell that doesn't involve a shadow pip, and then a new, more powerful version of the current spell that does use a shadow pip that you can only make with shadow fusion. So this is a new base Rusalka. The one that gives you blades is the one that's allowed in PvE, and the one that's a weakness gambit is a PvP one. But basically, right? Like every single shadow enhance spell, they're going to be making it so that Rusalka doesn't require a shadow pip to cast the base version of it. So in PvE, you can use the spell on the left to hit before a more powerful hit, and if you get like a 60 blade or a 45 blade, this could actually be a good combo that no longer requires shads. And in PvP, basically this is a weakness gambit. What this means is if you put like a triple weakness on your opponent, maybe if you're getting creative, something like the Refold Fever, and basically this spell will hit and will sacrifice up to 3 weaknesses on your opponent for 3 blades on yourself. Additionally, the PvP version of this new base Rusalka is school specific. That's what that little, rainbow symbol means. That means if a fire uses this with weaknesses on their opponent, they'll get fire blades. If a ice uses it, they'll get ice blades. When a storm uses it, they'll get storm blades. Now, these 55 blades, pretty impressive compared to Catch of the Day, considering that now you don't need a shad. If you do have a weakness, you do have a better hit and blade than even Catch of the Day is right now. And this is a very, very powerful spell. I think this is a very important part of this teaser because what it shows is that the utility of the shadow enhance spell as we know it is going to be retained. Last week, they did a teaser with Glowbug, but the weird thing about the current version of Glowbug, especially the one that's only allowed in PvE, it's just base damage. It doesn't do anything extra, so if you were to remove a shad from it, it would just look like a weaker 5-pip AoE. That's why people thought it was a nerf. But this new version of Rusalka shows when you have a little bit of a utility, you're looking at brand new spells that you could use without a shadow pip. We could be looking at some ridiculous new base spells that have never existed before. The one that I'm personally excited about, Top Hat Snowball Barrage. This spell, when you max tier it, does 115 ice damage per pip. It's an X-pip spell that currently requires a shad. Now, I'm gonna assume that damage per pip is gonna go down when they remove the shad, but if it's still an X-pip spell, we're looking at a new Ice Tempest, no shads involved, as a new base spell for ice that you'll learn essentially in Polaris. This could be like a gigantic change in usefulness in PvE for a school like Ice. We could be looking at a really cool new hit and shield for Ice that doesn't involve a shad either, at a slightly higher pips than Cold Iron, which is the 4-pip hit and shield for Ice. We could even be looking at a shadow pipless hit and bubble for a school like Balance, a school that has never gotten a hit and bubble like this ever. It's not been in the convo without Gaze, which has always required a shadow pip. What this teaser for one of several shadow enhanced spells in the game shows is that we could actually be seeing new things for our toolkit, and it's not necessarily a nerf just because of removing a shadow pip from the spell. Now, this isn't even the damage heavy part of the teaser. This is what the new shadow enhanced spells do. These are the ones that you need to use shadow fusion and make. We're looking at the PvE version of Rusalka, almost 2,000 damage, and this is not even the tiered up version of Rusalka. So now here's where things look a little bit different, right? This new base version of Rusalka that they teased, the idea is that you would fuse it with something like, I'm gonna assume Shadow Shrike, Nova. Right, if you fuse a base Rusalka with one of these, I'm gonna assume one of them will make these 2 versions of Rusalka, one for PvE, one for PvP. The PvE one is absolutely ridiculous. You're looking at, without an enchant, 2,000 damage already, without spellaments, already 2,000 damage. And after it hits, it also still gives you a blade. All of this just happens as a result of you fusing a shad with the new base Rusalka. Now, you might be wondering what this pact is. So basically, right, they're, I guess, lining up shadow spells with the in-game lore. The idea that it corrupts, it gives you backlash. They're gonna apply it to shadow enhance spells, but it's 15% max lash, and the pact part of this lets you reduce it. So this looks like a weakness pact, And what I think basically this is saying is if you have weaknesses on your opponent, every round that you basically, you know, have after the Rusalka is cast, you'll have an opportunity to reduce your lash. So if you're going against a boss, for example, you could put a triple weakness on your opponent, use this Rusalka as after you fuse 2 spells, do over 2,000 damage, and for the next 3 rounds, you can just give up these weaknesses and reduce your lash to 0. So you have 3 rounds to reduce your lash, starting at 15%. Each time you do something that it likes, which is give up a weakness on your opponent on this card anyway, you reduce the lash by 5%. If you kill the enemy, obviously you take the full remaining lash, but even then, 15% of a pretty low HP school like Storm, it's not a lot considering how much more damage you're getting. We're looking at something that does about 33% more than the current most powerful shadow enhanced spell in the game. This is a gigantic damage increase. I don't even know what we're going to be doing with all that damage. Now, the PvP allowed one is also way better than the bottom path Rusalka that's allowed in PvP now. Now, it's weird. They didn't really keep the aura mechanic that we have in Live Realm right now. They made it into something that basically still, I guess, sacrifices weaknesses. But unlike the base version, which doesn't involve a shadow pip and just sacrifices weaknesses for blades, what this does, it hits and gives you the blades for free, essentially. And then to reduce the backlash, that 15% that you would otherwise take, it gives up weaknesses on the opponent. In PvP, if I were anybody and I wanted to get a massive hit and triple blade and not take lash, I would just have to put a triple weakness on the opponent. If the opponent responds by removing them, maybe have another one ready to go to keep the pact happy so you don't take lash after using them. Based on the Rusalka teasers alone, I think the big winners for shadow enhanced spells anyways, depending on which school you're on, I think it's going to be shads that actually do stuff other than flat damage, because if it's just a shad with flat damage, it's going to be kind of unremarkable in its base form. But the other winners are just going to be higher damage schools, because the second you fuse one of these single shadow enhanced spells with a shadow creature, you're looking at damage that we've never seen before. For some reference, the current most powerful damage spell that you could use on a Storm, it's Turmoil only. You have to give up 4 weaknesses on your opponent to even get this 2,000 damage. There is a chance that this version of Rusalka with Spellements, which we are confirmed to get 5 tiers for these, even though they're fusions, this version could be better at a simple 6 pips for fusing. I think it could be crazy. So what's going to change with the game? Every school's getting a bunch of new base spells. Those might be W's in themselves. If they're missing out on the damage from shadow enhanced spells, they will have to be okay with taking lash and fusing, which is like a card space type of thing, deck space type of thing. But I'm really starting to think, especially depending on what they do with all of the other shadow enhanced spells, this could really shake up the game in both PvP and PvE. Let me know what you guys think. What new base versions of current shadow spells are y'all excited about? What things are y'all excited about in terms of shadow fusions? There's 2 major new sources of offense and utility that every school's gonna be getting. I look forward to reading all of y'all's thoughts. Hopefully I explained this well. If y'all missed my original video covering shadow packs, that's a little bit more in depth, and it also covers the shadow transformations more, like Shrike, Nova, all the things that they're gonna be doing to those. So check out that video if you missed it. But this is pretty massive in terms of like adding to our knowledge of what to expect in the upcoming Darkmoor update, as big as it's looking. I look forward to reading y'all's thoughts. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave us up if you're new, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon, and yeah.